Alright, hey everyone, I'm Herschel, and today I'm going to talk about heat stress in cattle and why it should matter to you. So, heat stress, what is it? Well, it's simply the inability of a cow to dissipate heat to its surroundings when its metabolic heat production increases. And there's lots of reasons why the heat that the cow feels could increase. And there's two big environmental reasons, and that's temperature and humidity, alright, the classic ones. But some that I didn't include on here would be heat of fermentation from the rumen and also just metabolic heat. And according to a study, this is just a normal fact, but according to a study by St. Pierre et al. On the Journal of Dairy Science, annual U.S. economic losses due to heat stress amounted to at least $1 billion. So, there's a lot of room for cost effectiveness there. So, what does it look like, right? First of all, before we even start talking about it, it's important to realize that it is sometimes unnoticed because heat stress is it's on a spectrum. It's not just is she in heat stress or not. And so the classic signs of heat stress would be severe open, if it's on the score of 4 in terms of panting, you would see the cow and she has her mouth completely open, her neck is extended, her tongue is out, she's salivating, she is respirating a lot, she's breathing really heavily. But there's also lots of other ones where sometimes they go very, very well unnoticed if it's just mild heat stress, and that's if she, just elevated respiration or moderate panting or presence of drool or small amount of saliva. And also, as you can see here in this picture, she obviously looks hot. This picture just looks like it's at least 100 degrees to all you producers out there. So there are various severities of it. Like I said, it's not just simply does my cow have heat stress or not, and that means it can very easily go unnoticed. And so one really good way to quantify this, and rather than just going out there and looking at your cow and guessing if she's in heat stress or not, is by using this table right here. And it's basically you go on here and you see what temperature it is. 86 degrees, 84 degrees. It's just pretty hot, but those are very common temperatures in the South or even in the Midwest. And even at a 30% relative humidity, she's in a little bit of a mild heat stress here, and that's going to reduce production. However, there's a lot of bad areas where serious problems can occur as well. So what is the main takeaway for this slide? It really is to understand that heat stress is unavoidable. That means that some number of head in your herd will have heat stress, and that is not something you can avoid, but it is something you can plan for and reduce as much as you can. So what does it do? Lots of things. Obvious things, the feed intake is decreased, and that means lower average daily gain. That means all the production metrics that matter to you as a producer go down. It makes it worse for you. The immune system is compromised in the cow, so lots of other problems can occur, secondary issues, and reproductive performance is lowered, and that means males and females. And males is the obvious one that everyone knows about, with semen quality being decreased if they're in heat stress. But with females, studies have shown that heat stress reduces the length and intensity of estrus, which makes it harder on you to detect the heat. And if you are a reproductive physiologist, and you're also affected too, it's not just the cows, you have to work with these stubborn cattle. They feed slower and you have to wait on them, and you can obviously tell this farmer is very frustrated. And if you can't see it, probably to the left of him is a bunch of cows that are really stubborn. And studies show that meat quality is also affected, so it is a multifaceted problem for sure. So how do you mitigate heat stress? There's lots of ways, a lot of simple ways that almost everyone knows about, such as water and fans and whatnot, but I'm just going to hit a few again. So for starters, of course, provide shade, and if they're in pens, provide fans. Fans are so important, but not just fans, you can even add misters to them, and that adds a lot of benefit to cooling your cows off. And obviously make sure they have water, but keep the water troughs close to where the shade is. I've seen a lot. This might seem simple, but I've seen lots of places where the water trough is just in the middle of the pasture where it never gets shade. So the cows have to walk there through the sun to get their water, which is going to help them. And another thing is just work the cattle early morning, as you all know. But a lot of times, sometimes especially on the summer days, things get slower. You get slower. You get, it's 12 p.m., 1 p.m. by the time you get done with everything. So, go out there early, maybe even get some help if you want to get things done quickly. It's better for the cows, it's better for you. Additionally, this is another one that maybe some people don't think about, but if management persists, you can graze your herd at evening instead. This allows for the bulk of, like I said earlier, the heat of fermentation that happens in the rumen especially when they eat forage, will produce heat in their body, and you don't want them to be producing that heat during the afternoon by grazing them in the morning, because then the sun compounded with the heat of fermentation will make it much worse for the cow. So instead you can graze them at the evening time, and so the heat of fermentation happens during the nighttime when it's cooler, and they'll make it much easier on the cow. But that also allows you to, if you think about it, it allows you to feed your concentrate in the morning, whatever grain you're feeding, and that has a lower heat of fermentation than forage does, and that will help you to balance all the things you can. These are my references, and that is all I have to talk about today. Thank you for joining.